I have been betrothed to Xianxia, the son of the Grand Tutor, since childhood. Everyone said he was cold and distant, but he was exceptionally attentive only to me. Married for 10 years, he helped manage the princess residence, doted on me and spoiled me, and when I was gravely injured, he unhesitatingly cut his wrist to draw blood as a medicinal catalyst. Even Father Emperor praised how deeply he loved me. It wasn't until before I died that I discovered the jade hairpin he hid in a secret compartment in the study. The name carved on it was not mine. I suddenly realized that in all these years, I had never heard him say the words "I love you." The first thing I did after being reborn was to ask Father Emperor to annul the engagement and betroth him to the fourth young lady of the Bureau of Music's director. Before the Golden Luan Hall, his eyes were red with anger, and he lost his temper with me for the first time. "Your Highness, Weiss affairs do not require you to take matters into your own hands." While tidying up the study, I found a jade hairpin. The workmanship was crude. The carver was clearly a novice. The character Chan was carved at the end of the jade hairpin. The strokes restrained and sharp, much like Xianxia's own self-disciplined and introspective nature. This was not a gift he had prepared for me. The second before the painted boat sank, I was still wondering which lady in the capital had Chan in her name, what she looked like, and if she was more learned and sensible than I. The glaring sunlight streamed through the window lattice. I frowned and opened my eyes to see a familiar face. "Your Highness is finally awake." Bai Tao patted her chest. "You truly scared this servant just now. If young General Pei hadn't happened to be passing by and saved you from under the horse's hooves, how could I answer to Her Majesty the Empress in the future?" I listened in a daze to her soft complaints. I turned my gaze, and the bronze mirror reflected my 15-year-old face. I'd been reborn. The sound of hurried footsteps came from outside the hall. The beaded curtain was lifted, and a tall, straight figure walked in. "Are you uncomfortable anywhere?" Xianxia stood 3 steps from the bed, handing the steaming medicine cup to Bai Tao. His features were as beautiful as a painting, but always held a hint of aloofness, overlapping with the taciturn prince consort in my memory. Memories came rushing back like a tide. I remembered. On this day, I was provoked by the 6th princess into a horse race, but I fell off the horse and fainted from shock. In my past life, Xianxia was punished by the Grand Tutor to kneel in the ancestral hall for half a month for failing to protect me. Yet he never had a single word of complaint. Back then, I thought he was deeply devoted to me, but thinking about it now, it was just an act for my imperial father to see. My mother, the Empress, passed away early, and I was frail and sickly since childhood. My imperial father was often unable to look after me, so he wanted to find me a study companion. Among all the young lords and ladies, I picked Xianxia at a glance. "All right, he will protect you from now on." My imperial father beckoned him forward, seeing the tips of his ears turn red as he walked over. My heart couldn't help but beat a little faster. From that day on, I had a little tale behind me. The 6th princess had always been jealous of my father emperor's affection for me, often picking fights for no reason, but she didn't dare scold me, so she could only scold Xianxia, calling him my kept pretty boy, my child husband, a dog that only knows how to wag its tail and listen to me. Every time, I would protect Xianxia and argue with her, but I was bad with words and could never win. Later, at the double 9th palace banquet, I begged my father emperor to grant me a marriage with Xianxia, to prove to everyone that he wasn't a dog I kept, but my future prince consort. When it was time to kowtow and thank the emperor for the decree, Xianxia lowered his eyelashes, his lips pressed together in silence. I thought he was being shy, but now I understand that it was clearly resistance. The Imperial Academy classroom. I was leaning on my desk, spacing out, as various scenes from my past life flashed before my eyes like a revolving lantern. I don't want to ruin Xianxia again. If I hadn't asked Father Emperor to grant the marriage back then, he would have taken the imperial examination, entered the Hanlin Academy, and step by step taken over his father's position as Grand Tutor, enjoying a meteoric rise. Instead of being trapped in the princess residence, frustrated and unfulfilled for life, he would have achieved success and fame, and then I wouldn't have died either. The tutor was explaining the profound meanings of the spring and autumn annals. Xianxia had finished learning it long ago and was reading corrections to essays on strategy on his own. When class was dismissed at noon, I packed my things unhurriedly. Xianxia sat beside me, waiting, cold and indifferent, seemingly uninterested in anything but his books. With only the 2 of us left in the room, I suddenly spoke. "Xianxia, you can go back. From now on, you don't have to follow me anymore, nor do you need to be my study companion." "Your Highness, why do you say that? The autumn imperial exam is just around the corner. Don't you want to take it?" I clenched my hands inside my sleeves and said with a casual smile, Go on. With your ability, you'll definitely come out on top. Xianxia, I'm setting you free. Without waiting for his reply, I grabbed my things, got up, and left, heading back to the palace with Bai Tao who was waiting outside. The sound of hurried footsteps came from behind me. He had actually caught up. Your Highness, are you angry with me? It was my fault yesterday. I shouldn't have left your Highness alone at the racecourse. I will go and plead for forgiveness from His Majesty later. The midday sun shone down on him, bright and brilliant. His gaze was frank, as if to say, you don't need to test me. I explained earnestly, no, it has nothing to do with what happened yesterday. I was too willful in the past, asking my father emperor for the marriage decree without ever asking your opinion. For someone as smart as you, being unable to become an official because of me is too much of an injustice. Don't worry, I will ask my father emperor to retract the decree. You just focus on preparing for the exam. Xianxia stood frozen in place, perhaps because it was the first time he had ever heard me say such things. At this exact moment in my past life, I was pestering him to take me out of the palace to release river lanterns, completely unaware that the unfinished palace examination essay was still sitting on his desk. Back then, I even foolishly asked him if he would regret not being able to become an official by being the prince's husband. He says he doesn't regret it, but in his heart, he's definitely very regretful. After all, he could recite the 5 classics at 3 and compose prose at 7. To be full of talent with no way to use it, it's painful just thinking about it. Xianxia didn't follow me anymore. While I breathed a sigh of relief, I couldn't help but feel down. There were no classes at the academy in the afternoon, so I snuck out of the palace to drink my sorrows away. I was afraid Father Emperor would find out, so I didn't dare bring Betroth with me. When I was about to pay the bill, I found that my money pouch was gone. I let out a long sigh and sat back down gloomily, pondering how I could get the bill on credit without revealing my identity. Suddenly, the corner of the table was knocked twice, and a tall figure sat down across from me. Princess, Andier, you can't be serious. Your Highness is this heartless. The other person clutched their chest, heartbroken. I just saved you yesterday, and you've already forgotten me today. I raised my eyes to look at him carefully. So it was young General Pei Xian. In my previous life, he went to guard the border in the year I married Xianxia, and never returned to the capital city. It's reasonable that I couldn't recognize him. Thank you for saving me yesterday, young General Pei. I gave him a slight nod. It was nothing. Pei Xian waved his hand. But your Highness, you weren't hurt anywhere, were you? I shook my head. For a moment, no one spoke, and the atmosphere became a little awkward. Pei Xian looked out the window at the darkening night and hesitantly spoke up. It's getting late. How about I escort your Highness back to the palace? I nodded hurriedly. The drinks are paid for, and I even get a free guard. What's not to like? Walking out of the tavern, I told him I'd pay him back for the drinks tomorrow. No, Pei Xian seemed to have thought of something and suddenly changed his tune. All right, I'll go to the palace to find your Highness tomorrow. As they spoke, a tavern attendant led Pei Xian's horse over. The horse was inky black all over, its saddle adorned with gilt bronze ornaments. As unrestrained and flamboyant as its master, I subtly took a few steps back. Pei Xian noticed my small movement. Your Highness, please wait here for a moment. I'll go get a carriage. As the carriage was about to reach the palace gate, I stuck my head out and told Pei Xian to stop here. He looked back doubtfully. I explained in a low voice. I snuck out. He raised his eyebrows and pulled the reins tight. After getting off the carriage, I was about to bid him farewell. Pei Xian stared at something behind me with a slight frown, and said in a low voice, "We're done for. It seems your Highness can't hide the fact that you snuck out of the palace." I looked back and saw Xianxia standing at the palace gate. The palace lantern swayed, stretching his shadow long and thin. It's fine, you should head back first. Pei Xian gave me a worried glance, and hesitantly turned the carriage around to leave. On the way back to the palace, Xianxia silently followed behind me, somehow giving me a strange sense of pressure. Walking into Fian Palace, he suddenly spoke. Your Highness wants to break off our engagement because of him. No, today was only the second time I've seen him. You've been drinking. He leaned in closer. I opened my mouth, preparing to explain, but he pulled back with little concern, turned his head, and left. I stood rooted to the spot, staring blankly at his gradually retreating back. Your Highness is back. Bai Tao came forward to greet me. I came back to my senses and walked inside sullenly. Xianxia has a private chamber in the side hall of Fian Palace. Sometimes when I don't want him to leave the palace, he'll stay there. Remembering the unhealed knife cut on his hand, I turned and walked towards his room. Sure enough, I found that jade hairpin. The places he hides things are nothing more than the secret compartments in his desk or bookshelf, very easy to find. I rubbed the character Chan on the end of the hairpin, but no matter how I thought about it, I couldn't recall which noble lattice name this was. Could it be some young palace maid or servant girl, with that stay away from me look of his? He probably scares people off before he even starts pursuing them. I have to help him. The next day, I woke up dizzy, so I didn't go to the academy. Father Emperor heard I was sick and came to see me after court. He asked about the cause of my illness, and of course, I didn't dare say it was from drinking, so I vaguely said I might have caught a cold. He called for the imperial physician to check my pulse and prescribe medicine, and left after staying with me until I finished it. Bai Tao found out some news. There is indeed a woman in the capital named Jiang Chan, the concubine-born daughter of the Xiaolia Lang's family. Xiaolia Lang, a minor 8th rank official, and a concubine-born daughter at that. No wonder I don't know her. But how does Xianxia know her? I can't figure it out. At the end of the hour, Pei Xian came looking for me. I had Bai Tao give him back the money for the wine. He took it, and when he heard from Bai Tao that the swing in the courtyard was broken, he rolled up his sleeves and started fixing it without a second word. Watching his serious expression, I couldn't help but tease. Bai Tao, remember to pay little General Pei his wages later. Pei Xian shot me a sidelong glance. Just then, a palace maid came to report. Young Master Shen requests an audience. Xianxia never needed to be announced when he came to my palace before, but now that things are out in the open, I revoked all his special privileges last night. When I arrived at the palace gate, Xianxia was standing there, tall and graceful, carrying candied pastries he bought from Hele House. I heard your highness is sick. It's nothing serious. Oh. He handed me the food box. Thank you. Since you are no longer my study companion, you don't have to do these things to take care of me anymore. Xianxia was silent for a good while, looking at me in confusion, and sighed softly. Did I do something wrong to make your highness unhappy? Now I can't even enter the palace gate of Fian Palace. It's not your fault, it's that I figured some things out. I calmly explained. Since you and I have nothing to do with each other anymore, we should avoid suspicion like any ordinary man and woman would. After speaking, I turned to go back into the palace, but suddenly remembered something, and turned back to say solemnly, oh, right. I'll have someone send the things you left in Fian Palace back to the mansion. Don't come here anymore. Xianxia, I'm waiting to see you parading on horseback through the streets. His brows were tightly knitted, as if he didn't understand why I suddenly said such things. Back in the courtyard, Pei Xian had already fixed the swing and was sitting on the stone stool drinking water. What's this? Something good to eat. He glanced at the food box I placed on the table. Yeah, have a taste if you want to eat. He opened the lid, saw the candied fruit pastries inside, and pouted. I don't like sweets. He doesn't like them, but I do. Taking a pastry from the food box, I began to eat it in small bites. It's been about half a month since I last had some. I couldn't resist and ate 2 more pieces in one go. Pei Xian propped his arms on the table watching me, his expression serious. I felt a bit of strangeness. You're still not leaving? Oh, leaving. I'm leaving right now. He stood up. I went with him to see him out. Just as I reached the palace gate, a clear and cold voice rang out. Is this what your highness calls avoiding suspicion? I looked up and met Xianxia's stern gaze, and for some reason, I felt the awkwardness of being caught cheating on the spot. No, that's not right. He and I are just familiar strangers now. Also, what has he been doing squatting at the entrance of Fian Palace all this time? Pei Xian sensed that the atmosphere was off, turned around and started walking back. I forgot something. Xianxia's expression darkened even more. It's not what you think. Young General Pei came to see me today to discuss an important matter. He and I quickly explained, but Xianxia impatiently cut me off. Your highness need not say more. If you've had a change of heart, just tell the subject directly. There's no need to find so many high-sounding excuses. His tone was indifferent. After speaking, he turned and left, his hastily retreating back looking vaguely angry. This scene felt familiar. So, he left without a word last night because he was angry. After seeing him leave, Pei Xian poked his head out. Should I go and explain to young Master Shen? No need. Did you two have a fight? Because of me? No. I was a bit mentally exhausted. Aren't you leaving yet? Leaving right now. Pei Xian took 2 steps, then turned back. Your highness, I don't want a rift to form between you and young Master Shen because of me. It really has nothing to do with you. Okay, if there's anything you need me for in the future, your highness, just send someone to find me. On the 3rd day of the 7th month, The household of the vice minister of the court of imperial sacrifices held a birthday banquet. I usually don't attend banquets held by officials below the fourth rank, but thinking of Xianxia, I went this time. Lord Lin and Lady Lin greeted me at the entrance of their residence and led me to the seat of honor. I politely declined. Lady Lin is the guest of honor today. It wouldn't be right for me to take the main seat. At the banquet, I scanned the room and found Xianxia in a spot at the very edge. She was wearing a long cyan dress, with a few silver hairpins inserted askew in her hair bun. Her features could be considered delicate and pretty. I slowly walked towards her. Suddenly, I heard a commotion at the entrance. Xianxia had unexpectedly come as well. Lady Lin asked, "Should I call young Master Shen over?" "No need, don't tell him I'm here." "Alright." Although Lady Lin was suspicious, she didn't ask any more questions. Fortunately, the male and female guests were seated separately at today's banquet, so it wasn't difficult to hide. Xianxia has always hated noisy atmospheres. Aside from accompanying me, he rarely attends banquets. Now he's willing to inconvenience himself just to see the one he fancies. So it turns out, I was never an exception to him. The green plum juice I had just drunk spread through my heart, overwhelmingly sour and bitter. I suppressed the feeling and sat down beside Xianxia. "Miss Jiang, were you?" Before entering the mansion, I had spoken with Lady Lin, not wanting to be exposed, so am attending the banquet as a relative of the Lin family. Am a friend of Xianxia. Oh, she blinked, believing whatever was said. "So you're brother Shen's friend." "Hello." Their relationship is indeed unusual. After exchanging names, I got straight to the point. "Xianxia asked me to give this to you." I took out a long, narrow rosewood box, one I had carefully selected from the storeroom. How can you give a gift without wrapping it? Especially a token of love like this. Xianxia took it, the smile on her lips exceptionally bright. I had no interest in getting involved in what came next, so I got up and left while she was absorbed in unwrapping the gift. "When you're feeling down, even the wind tastes bitter. Your Highness is leaving." Lady Lin came to see me off. I hope your Highness won't blame us for any poor hospitality today." "Not at all. I had a great time." After saying that, I forced a strained smile. Having successfully delivered the token of love for Xianxia, the weight that had been on my mind for days was finally lifted. I wonder what was on Xianxia's mind when he was carving the jade hairpin. Apprehension, anticipation, or perhaps the unique fervor and shyness of a young man. To be honest, I'm quite envious of Xianxia. I still remember that year, when I mustered up the courage to confess my feelings to Xianxia. At that time, he stood under a sky full of fireworks, his face flickering in the light, and after I finished speaking, he nonchalantly lowered his eyelids. His voice was cool and distant, as if my admiration was as annoying as the incessant sound of fireworks. Pei Xian recently sent over many trinkets, saying they were an apology for Xianxia misunderstanding me because of him. At first, I found him annoying and told him to stop sending things, but later I happened to flip through a storybook mixed in with them, and it was like a whole new world opened up to me. I was so engrossed in reading the storybooks every day that I'd forget to eat or sleep. One of them was unfinished, and I even sent messages daily, urging Pei Xian to find the sequel. On this day, I had just opened a new storybook. Xianxia burst into Fian Palace, ignoring the palace maids who tried to stop him. His face was grim. This was the first time he had ever broken the rules. "Your Highness," the young palace maid knelt down, begging for forgiveness for failing to stop him. I waved my hand, telling her to leave first. "Speak." Xianxia pressed his lips together. "Did your Highness give my things to someone else?" He didn't specify what, but I knew exactly what he was talking about. "Yes, since you didn't dare to give it to her anyway, I thought I'd help you out." Although I said that, I couldn't help but feel a little guilty. I thought I had successfully set him and Xianxia up, but seeing his expression now, it seems he's only just finding out. Xianxia's fists were clenched tightly. Perhaps it was the embarrassment of having a long-hidden secret exposed by me. As his face turned ugly, I feigned nonchalance and said, "Miss Jiang's family background may not be the best, but she's a good person, gentle and virtuous. Since you're so fond of her, you should confess your feelings soon. I've heard that she's having a hard time in the Jiang family, being picked on by the matriarch. Lord Jiang even intends to marry her off to the 5th young Master Qin as a concubine. If you don't want to regret it later, you should hurry and pick an auspicious day to go propose marriage. My affairs are of no concern to your Highness," he ground out, each word sounding as if it was forced through his teeth. "Fine, as long as you've heard what I said." I called for Bai Tao and told her to see the guest out. Xianxia snorted coldly, refusing to budge. "Does your Highness detest me this much now, after getting a new lover?" You can't wait to push me onto someone else. I guess all those sweet things you said to me before were just lies to deceive me. I was taken aback, not expecting that he would actually question my feelings. Haven't you been deceiving me all this time too? I retorted, sticking my neck out, using my status as a princess to pressure him for the first time. It is already merciful of me not to punish you, and to help you and Jiangchan get together. Bai Tao, call guard Lin to escort young Master Shen back to his residence. No need, he refused coldly, then knelt down respectfully in a kowtow. I thank your highness for the grace of not killing me. I bit my lower lip and turned my face away, trying hard not to look at him, to keep my tears from falling. Xianxia, in this life, I will absolutely never be soft-hearted towards you again. For more than half a month straight, Xianxia didn't come looking for me again. Father Emperor thought I had a fight with him and asked a couple of questions about it. I went along with what he said. After all, it wasn't the best time yet to ask him to withdraw the imperial edict for our marriage. The person by my side became Pei Xian. He brought me pastries and helped me with the homework assigned by the tutor. Whenever I couldn't recite from memory and got scolded by the tutor, he would hitch that black horse with dark hooves to the carriage and take me out of the city to relax. My relationship with Pei Xian progressed by leaps and bounds. The final drum for the imperial examination sounded, and I happened to be passing by the gate of the examination hall. In the crowd, Jiangchan and Xianxia stood shoulder to shoulder. She took out water and pastries from a food box, speaking to him gently, perhaps because it was crowded and noisy and he couldn't hear clearly. Xianxia lowered his head and leaned it closer to hers, looking like a perfect couple. I lowered the carriage curtain and urged Pei Xian to hurry up, because the tutor had to participate in proctoring the autumn imperial examination. The Imperial Academy was on break, so Pei Xian and I had been having a wild time recently, visiting lantern festivals, singing houses, and going for outings in the suburbs. I was almost playing outside all day, but as long as I returned to the palace before curfew, Father Emperor would turn a blind eye to it all and couldn't be bothered to restrain me. Things changed after the imperial examination ended. Xianxia would always bump into me in all sorts of places. When Pei Xian and I were chatting, he'd sit nearby without saying a word or smiling, like a great Buddha statue, and then he'd urge me to return to the palace right on schedule. Whenever he saw Pei Xian acting as my coachman, while he rode his horse beside my carriage, he'd always have to say something sarcastic. On the 20th of the 8th month, I moved out of the imperial palace and held my 16th birthday banquet at the princess residence. On my birthday, Father Emperor came to the mansion for a short while and then left, leaving behind several chests of gold, silver, and jewels. I picked out a few jade pendants and bracelets to use as prizes for pitchpot, and since I was the birthday girl, everyone let me win, but that clueless Pei Xian, after a few rounds of competition, stubbornly beat me to first place. I was so mad I didn't want to talk to him. After the banquet ended, Pei Xian was the last one to leave. Your Highness, don't be angry anymore. I'll give you everything I won tonight. Fei Ning, I just didn't want other people to win your things. The candlelight was too dim for me to see his expression, and I slurred as if drunk. You are my dearest friend. Of course I won't be angry with you. He lowered his eyelashes, hiding the desolation in his eyes. As long as your Highness is not angry. After Pei Xian left, I sat alone for a long time, my eyes clear, showing none of the drunkenness from before. The Pei family has been loyal and distinguished for generations, and in Pei Xian's generation, he is the only son. I can't ruin him anymore. I couldn't help but lean on the chair and take a short nap for a while. When I opened my eyes again, Xianxia was actually standing in front of me. He gave me a resentful look and said unhappily, "Your health is already poor, and you're still sleeping here. Aren't you afraid of catching a cold? Where's Bai Tao?" On the way back to the room, Xianxia lectured me non-stop. Although your Highness has moved to the princess residence, the rules cannot be neglected, especially since outside the palace is a motley crowd. I frowned slightly, feeling for the first time that he was so talkative it was annoying. So noisy. Can you just shut up? Xianxia's figure froze, his tone stiff. I don't mean to nag. It's just that His Majesty hasn't cancelled the marriage agreement between you and me yet. So if something were to happen to you, how would I answer to His Majesty? I stopped walking. Don't worry, after the results are announced, I will go to Father Emperor to cancel the marriage agreement. That's not what I meant. He tensed up all over. I glanced at him strangely. Then what do you mean? Xianxia's expression darkened, and he turned his face away, not speaking again. Stepping into the inner chamber, I walked straight to the tea table. Xianxia picked up the teapot, poured a cup of warm water, and pushed it in front of me. He asked in a muffled voice, "Your Highness' birthday, why didn't you invite me?" I did, Maybe the servants failed to notify you properly, but in reality, I didn't invite him at all. I didn't want to ruin such a joyous day by looking for trouble. Xianxia lowered his eyes and stood silently by the table. After a long while, he took an ebony brocade box from his sleeve and placed it on the table. Fei Ning, happy birthday. I glanced at it, but didn't take it. Nor did I have any intention of opening it. He hesitated where he stood, as if he had 1,000 things to say, but in the end, he just opened and closed his mouth, said his farewell, and turned to leave. In previous years, the birthday gifts Xianxia gave me were all expensive and exquisite ornaments, befitting a princess noble status. There are still many piled up in the storeroom now. That's why I've long had no expectations for the things he gives me. I called for Bai Tao and had her put the gift away in the storeroom. As she picked up the box and turned, she accidentally tripped on the carpet, and the item inside fell out. Picking up the jade hairpin from the floor, I couldn't help but freeze. The craftsmanship of this jade hairpin was clearly much more delicate than the one he gave Jiang Chan. It was a faint white all over, and the handle was engraved with the two characters Fei Ning, having lived 2 lifetimes. It's a rare occasion to receive a gift handmade by Xianxia. Your Highness, should I still put it in the storeroom? Take it. I handed the jade hairpin to Betroth. Remember to register it properly. This is a gift from Xianxia. On the day the results were posted, I specifically had Betroth wait in front of the examination hall to check the rankings. Xianxia, as expected, passed the examination with high honors, ranking in the first tier, first class, just waiting to be inscribed on the golden roll after the palace examination. After hearing what Betroth said, tears instantly burst from my eyes, for him and also for myself. When I stepped into the Golden Luan Hall, Grand Tutor Shen and Xianxia were kneeling before the throne, and Father Emperor, seated on his throne, was sternly reprimanding them. Xianxia, you should be aware that in this dynasty, an imperial son-in-law cannot serve in the imperial court. Father Emperor, I was the one who told Xianxia to take the imperial examination. Don't blame him. I quickly knelt down to plead. Fining. Father Emperor looked over helplessly. Even if I dote on you, the rules left by our ancestors cannot be abolished. I understand, which is why I came today to specially request that Father Emperor cancel the engagement between me and young Master Shen. You're not insisting that you'll marry no one but him anymore. Am not. I explained with a sincere attitude. In the past, Fining was young and didn't understand the love between a man and a woman. Only now do I realize that my feelings for young Master Shen are no different from those for an older brother. Besides, young Master Shen is exceptionally talented. He really shouldn't be buried. Nonsense. Father Emperor slammed the table in a rage. I kowtowed, trembling. I implore Father Emperor to retract the imperial edict. After a long while, Father Emperor calmed down and turned to ask Xianxia, and what do you think? Grand Tutor Shen quickly stepped forward, cupped his hands, and replied, this humble subject will respectfully obey your Majesty's command. We have seen Xianxia's examination paper. It would indeed be a waste of his talent to be the prince consort. As such, the marriage between you and Fining is called off. This subject obeys the edict, Grand Tutor Shen said, pulling the dazed Xianxia to thank the Emperor. Might as well go all the way. I spoke up again to request, Father Emperor, the 4th young lady of the Bureau of Music's Master of Ceremonies. Before I could finish, I was ruthlessly interrupted by Xianxia. Your Majesty, this humble subject has something to discuss with the princess alone. Father Emperor was annoyed with me at the moment, so he agreed without hesitation. After walking out of the Golden Luan Hall, Xianxia asked angrily, was your Highness just trying to request an imperial edict for Miss Jiang and I to be married? Isn't that good? With the imperial edict, Grand Tutor Shen won't be able to stop you from marrying Jiang Chan. Who in this world could be more considerate than me? Annulment and betrothal all in one go. A direct escort for the lovers to their happy and blissful life. Xianxia stared at me, his eyes blazing with fire. Not good. This humble subject's affairs do not need your Highness' unauthorized arrangements. Fine. I was being presumptuous. I won't meddle in your business anymore from now on. I walked past him, storming forward angrily. Xianxia chased after me and grabbed my wrist, his voice somewhat subservient. Fining. I wanted to tell you last time, I got that jade hairpin back. Oh, asking for things back that you've given away. Is that something worth being so proud and showing off about? You still don't get it. He gripped my hand forcefully. I frowned slightly. I don't get it, and I don't want to. Xianxia, stop pulling that long face. Isn't entering officialdom and getting promoted what you've always wanted? His face suddenly turned pale. I shook off his hand and turned to leave. When the news of Xianxia and I breaking off our engagement first got out, Everyone was guessing what had happened between us, especially when he and I showed up at the same place. Everyone there would look like they were watching a play, but aside from greeting each other with a few words, Xianxia and I had almost no other conversation. Without the expected scene of us pulling each other's hair, they gradually found it boring and stopped paying attention to us. In March of the following year, Xianxia placed first in the palace examination, becoming the top scholar. When he started his parade from Xingdao Lane, I was telling Pei Xian to get into the river and catch 2 fish for grilling. He complained as he took off his clothes, making me get in the river to catch fish in such cold weather. You're the only one who dares. Who told you not to bring a fishing rod? I shrugged. Fine. He quickly caught a few big fish and threw them ashore, then climbed out, changed out of his wet clothes, and sat by the fire to warm up. Looking at the big fish on the wooden fork, I equally envied everyone who was good at swimming. It's been almost a year since I was reborn, and only now have I adjusted my mindset enough to dare stand by the river. But I'm not in a hurry. I still have 9 years, which is enough time for me to learn how to swim and avoid the tragedy of my previous life. In early July, a war report came from the frontier. General Pei had been poisoned by a spy and had fallen ill into a coma. Pei Xian immediately entered the palace to volunteer for the expedition, and Father Emperor agreed without any surprise. On July 11th, I came to see him off for the expedition outside the city. Pei Xian tucked away the amulet I gave him and smiled. What a pity. If I were leaving a little later, I could have celebrated your birthday with you before going. I replied bluntly. A pity indeed. I'll be getting one less gift this year. Is that all you think about? What else? You won't miss out. I've already prepared your gift in advance. The expedition horn sounded. Pei Xian gave me a deep look, mounted his horse, and said, I'm leaving. Fei Ning, wait for me to come back. Okay. After seeing Pei Xian off and returning to my residence, Bai Tao said Xianxia was waiting for me in the front hall. Just as I had predicted, he had entered the Hanlin Academy under Grand Tutor Shen's arrangement and was quite busy every day. I hadn't seen him in almost half a year, and seeing him this time actually felt very unfamiliar. Your Highness, he staggered to his feet to bow, nearly bumping into the 8 immortals table. I supported him and smelled a distinct scent of alcohol. What? Did Lord Shen drink too much and mistake the princess residence for the Shen residence? Not expecting a drunkard to be looking for me for anything serious, I ordered Bitao to prepare a carriage, but he suddenly grabbed my wrist back. Fei Ning, a few days ago Pei Xian told me something. What? He said, you've never had any feelings for him. And so, does that have anything to do with you? Xianxia was stung by my cold attitude, and with a forceful pull, he pinned me against the table. Then why didn't you tell me when I misunderstood about you and him before? It wasn't because you had a change of heart that you didn't want me. As he spoke, tears seemed to be swirling in his reddened eyes. I looked at him expressionlessly. It would be a lie to say there were no ripples in my heart, but I only found the way he looked right now ridiculous. Xianxia, I did explain back then, but you were the one who insisted on not listening. I'm sorry. Xianxia was full of regret, regretting that he had agreed to break off the engagement in the Golden Luan Hall for that tiny bit of pride and pique. He wiped the corner of his eye and mustered the courage to move a bit closer to me. Fei Ning, I adore you. Can we start over? The confession I had fantasized about countless times in my past life. I never thought it would happen in a scene like this. Unfortunately, it was too late. No. Why? He asked urgently, gripping my shoulders anxiously. Is it because of that jade hairpin? I was young and foolish back then. I couldn't tell the difference between infatuation and admiration. I didn't have feelings for Jiang Chan. I just admired that unyielding spirit she had in the face of adversity. Oh. But you definitely resented me before for blocking your path to becoming an official. Although he hid it well, I could feel it. That's not it. Fei Ning, as long as you're still willing to marry me, I can resign immediately and never serve in the court for the rest of my life. He stared at me pleadingly, his gaze so fiery it felt like it could burn right through me. I pressed against his chest to push him away. There's no need, but he just got closer and closer. Your Highness, I'm begging you, please look at me again. After saying that, he leaned in to kiss me. I panicked and dodged, wrenched my arms free, and raised my hand to slap him across the face. Insolent, Xianxia was snapped back to his senses by the slap, and he dazedly let go of me. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I ran out of the front hall and ordered in a sharp voice, someone, throw him out for me. After I had Xianxia thrown out last time, he stayed quiet for a while. In just 7 days, he regained his confidence and started showing up in front of me again. His figure was always there. At the Imperial Palace, on the streets, in the temples, and he also loved to give me gifts. The jade pendants, gold hairpins, and pastries were all handmade by him. I was very annoyed. And what's even more annoying is that Pei Xian's battle has been going on for 3 whole years and still isn't over. He didn't come back for my birthday again this year. Father Emperor also had matters to attend to and couldn't come. So after I hurriedly made an appearance and collected the gifts, I dismissed everyone. Xianxia was in the front courtyard seeing off guests, while Bai Tao and I were squatting in the back courtyard, spacing out absent-mindedly. Why has Pei Xian been gone for so long and still isn't back? The battlefield is so dangerous. What if? Bai Tao, let's go to the temple again tomorrow to pray for some peace talismans. Your Highness. Xianxia was standing behind me. I don't know since when. His eyes filled with displeasure, yet also helplessness. I'm running around helping you with everything, yet you only think of him. I didn't ask you to help anyway. I muttered under my breath. Can you really not give me another chance? Fei Ning. Bai Tao. I want to go to sleep. You go see young Master Shen out. Late at night, I lay on the couch, tossing and turning. The window lattice was knocked on. I thought I was hearing things, so I turned over and ignored it. The next second, 2 tap-tap sounds came from the window again. I hurriedly lifted the curtain, only to see Pei Xian standing in the courtyard, holding a glowing flower in his arms. I was stunned for a moment, then said in pleasant surprise, "When did you get back? Is the war over? Why didn't you come in through the main gate? What are you still standing there foolishly for? Hurry up and come in and sit down." "I'm not sitting. The war isn't over." I snuck back, "and I have to leave in a bit." He handed me the flower he was holding, which glowed with a cold light. The flower stem swayed, a fluorescent light flowing across its petals, more beautiful than the moonlight. It took me a lot of effort to find a Xianxia tan like this. "Is it pretty?" "It's pretty." I looked at him with a smile. Pei Xian gazed at me for a long time, coughed lightly, and looked away. "I knew you would like it, Fei Ning. Happy birthday." Pei Xian's appearance the night before last felt like a dream. Fortunately, the Xianxia tan in the courtyard proved it wasn't an illusion. Another 2 years passed. Sixth sister's children are already going to school, and I'm still not married. Father Emperor was getting a little anxious. "Fei Ning, the princess consort really cannot be an official. If you and Xianxia keep dragging this on, I will not yield." "Who's dragging it on with him?" I knocked on the table irritably. "Weren't the battle reports from the borderlands supposed to arrive today? Why aren't they here yet? It's only the hour of C. There are still 2 Shurchen until the hour of Wei." Finally, the hour of Wei arrived, and the battle report was presented. Pei Xian led 100,000 soldiers in a surprise attack on Bailey half a month ago, retaking Rongqing, but he was very seriously injured. When I saw the 4 words severely injured and unconscious on the letter, my head spun. After I came to my senses, I rushed back to the princess residence to pack my things and headed for Jingzhou. I couldn't sleep well on the journey. Whenever I closed my eyes, I could see Pei Xian lying in bed, his face deathly pale and his breathing faint, as if he would pass away the next second. My eyes were bloodshot, and I prayed all day that nothing would happen to him. Half a month later, the carriage arrived in Jingzhou. Bai Tao had just handed the token to the guard in front of the general's manor when Pei Xian emerged from another corner of the street. "Your Highness, what are you doing here?" I sized him up carefully. Other than his complexion not being great, there were no major issues, and I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. "I was just passing by." That sword wound Pei Xian received was very dangerous, piercing through his abdomen from the back. It's a good thing he has a strong constitution, otherwise he might not have pulled through. When the doctor was changing his dressing, I peeked from behind the screen. The wound had already scabbed over and was recovering well. Pei Xian caught my gaze and smiled. "If you want to look, come on in and look." I quickly pulled my head back, saying irritably, "Who wants to look?" After the doctor finished changing the dressing and left, only he and I remained in the room. Pei Xian leaned halfway on the table, looking at me with sparkling eyes. "Your Highness came because you were worried about me, right?" "Who's worried about you? I heard you were about to die and came to collect your corpse, but with your Highness' current status, you can't collect my corpse or carry my coffin yet." Pa, just shut up already." He let out a soft laugh. His fingertips grazed the back of my hand, as if barely there, but didn't land. General Pei and Madame Pei returned to the manor, and after a brief chat with me, they had me stay at the general's manor. I didn't refuse, planning to rest for a month before returning to the capital city. For this past month, Pei Xian has been by my side almost constantly. During this time, many colleagues and subordinates came to visit him, but their gazes always landed on me, winking and making faces where I couldn't see, with an expression that said, The young general is really something. He can even win over a princess. Pei Xian let them fool around. In the blink of an eye, it was the day of my return to the capital. Pei Xian came to see me off before I left, fining. Pei Xian. I cut him off. Are you willing to wait for me? What? Wait until my 25th birthday, and I'll agree to whatever you say. He stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly let out a low laugh. Your Highness, don't you go back on your word then. I raised my hand. As the heavens are my witness, I swear on my life. Pei Xian covered my mouth with his hand. All right, I trust you won't go back on your word. Hurry and go. I'll wait for you. You've already waited 5 years. It's nothing for me to wait another 5. After returning to the capital city, my imperial father, as expected, threw a huge tantrum and grounded me for 3 months. Xianxia was also waiting early at the princess residence, ready to confront me. At him. He angrily smashed a vase and started sulking by himself. During my confinement, Xianxia came to see me every day, occasionally bringing some strange little trinkets. I wasn't very interested, as I was busy figuring out how to fill the courtyard with Tan. One day, Xianxia came to me drunk, asking again and again, Fei Ning, what on earth do I have to do for you to spare me a glance? Just tell me. Okay, weren't you the one who chose me back then? How can you just say you don't want me anymore? I really haven't fallen for anyone else. Fei Ning, I love you. Love me again too. Okay. To Xianxia, my feelings for him had changed in just a few short months, but in reality, the 10 years from our past life still lay between us. He had many opportunities to say he loved me, but whether there's love or not doesn't matter anymore. The past is like the wind. Let's just bury old dreams in the dust. In the blink of an eye, I'm turning 25 this year. In my past life, it was in June of this year that I fell into a lake and drowned. To prevent the accident from happening again, I've been avoiding places with a lot of water since the beginning of the year. Bai Tao came into the room with a letter. Your Highness, a letter from the young General Pei has arrived. Bring it over, quickly. Pei Xian's letter-writing style is as punchable as the man himself. The first 2 sentences reported he was safe and told me what had happened recently. And then he said he was coming back and would try to make it before my birthday. At the end, he wrote in the letter, Your Highness, you can't run away. I sneered, as if anyone was going to run. Just like in my previous life, in early March, I suddenly vomited blood and fainted. No matter what the imperial physicians did, from acupuncture to feeding me medicine, it was all to no avail. Father Emperor was furious, ordering the imperial physicians to wake me within 3 days, or have their heads. On the 7th of March, the head of the imperial medical department found a folk remedy that required human blood as a medicinal catalyst. Xianxia slit his wrist to draw blood without hesitation. 7 days later, I slowly opened my eyes, and as I looked over, I met a pair of gentle eyes. Fining, his voice was hoarse, his eyes shining with the light of having regained something lost. Yeah, my gaze fell on his bandaged wrist. Thank you. How will you thank me? Only by doing this would you be willing to say an extra word to me. I will naturally remember young Master Shen's kindness and find a chance to repay it. Xianxia, the medicine is ready. I'll go get it. After I recovered from my illness, the first thing I did was move back to the Imperial Palace, planning to borrow Father Emperor's true dragon chi to survive the calamity. On the last day of June, I locked myself in Fian Palace and didn't come out. At Weisher, I suddenly heard someone banging on the palace gate of Fian Palace and yelling loudly, The Gu young heir apparent has fallen into the water. Someone come quick. The Gu young heir apparent is Sixth Sister's child. She and I have never gotten along, so I didn't want to get involved at first. But somehow, by the time I came to my senses, I was already in the lake. I pushed the Gu young heir apparent onto the shore, while I, exhausted, slowly sank toward the bottom of the lake. Princess, someone, the princess hasn't come up yet. I couldn't hold my breath anymore and couldn't help but let out a small cough. Water rushed madly into my nasal cavity. A searing pain. My hands had no strength, and my whole body started to go numb. The deeper I sank, the darker it became before my eyes, and scenes from my past and present lives flashed through my mind. Perhaps everything is fated. I can't escape death in the end. It's just hard on Pei Xian, making him wait for me for all these years for nothing. My consciousness faded bit by bit, and my body grew colder and colder. Suddenly, there was the sound of water breaking above my head, and someone swam toward me, bringing light. I was unconscious for a whole day, and when I woke up again, it was dusk the next day. You're awake. How do you feel? Are you uncomfortable anywhere? Pei Xian leaned nervously by the bed, his face full of lingering fear and worry. I shook my head lightly. It's just that my throat hurts a little. Is the young heir apparent okay? What could possibly be wrong with him? He was very annoyed. But you're already in poor health and you still tried to play the hero and save someone. If I hadn't arrived in time, he held my hand tightly. It's a good thing I came back early. He leaned down and kissed the back of my hand as if it were a priceless treasure. Fei Ning, I don't want to wait anymore. Some things are better said clearly beforehand. Pei Xian, after becoming a prince consort, you can no longer go to the battlefield. I'd be only too glad not to go. Will General Pei and Madame Pei agree? My mother would be only too glad for me not to go either. What about General Pei? He listens to my mother. Bai Tao brought a bowl of restorative soup into the room. Pei Xian took it from her and fed me spoonful by spoonful as if taking care of a small child. After I finished, he put down the bowl, eager to go find Father Emperor to ask for a royal marriage decree. It's too late today. Let's talk about it tomorrow, I advised him. No, I won't wait a moment longer. I'm going to see His Majesty right now. Looking for me for what? Father Emperor's voice sounded from outside the door. Pei Xian's eyes lit up, and he bent his knees to kneel. Your servant Wei has long admired the 7th princess. I implore your majesty to grant a marriage between the 7th princess and me. Father Emperor didn't answer, turning to look at me instead. Are you willing, Fei Ning? Pei Xian clearly knew I wouldn't refuse, yet he still stared at me nervously. I smiled lightly, and in the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a tall, slender figure in a plain white brocade robe standing outside. Xianxia seemed to know I was awake. He had rushed over from outside the palace, his bangs slightly disheveled by the wind. I've also admired young General Pei for a long time, so of course I'm willing. Even happier than Pei Xian was my father emperor. He dismissed everyone and patted my head. Fei Ning is finally getting married off. He looked as if he was terrified I'd stay single forever. The night before my wedding, Xianxia sneaked into the princess residence to find me. Are you really going to marry him, Fei Ning? I've known you for many years. We were childhood sweethearts. Why does it have to be him in the end? Can you really not give me another look? I was just about to call Bai Tao to show him out. Pei Xian, who had also come to sneak a look at me, vaulted onto the wall, his face dark. Lord Shen, if you ruin someone's marriage, you won't be able to have a son your entire life. On the first day Pei Xian moved into the princess residence, he started drilling the residence guards. He said snarkily, from now on, the princess residence can't just let any dog in. Speechless, I pursed my lips. If you're going to be this defensive now, then why did you tell Xianxia I wasn't interested in you before you left for Bianjing Prefecture? He hemmed and hawed for a long while. I was afraid there would be no one to take care of you after I left. I rolled my eyes. This princess has plenty of people to take care of me. In the first year of our marriage, I gave birth to a pair of boy-girl twins. On the day of the 100-day banquet, it was very busy in the mansion. When I finally had time to rest, one of the children was being coaxed in Xianxia's arms. Since little General Pei can't take care of them all by himself, why not? Before he could finish, he was cut off by Pei Xian's angry roar. Bullshit. Pei Xian snatched the child from his hands, glaring at him warily. I can take care of 10 more, so don't you get any funny ideas. Xianxia sneered. As if you're worthy. He wants Fei Ning to bear him 10 children. Maybe in a couple of years, she'll get sick of him. Xianxia thought venomously, his heart aching with bitterness. Pei Xian was about to punch him in the face, but today was not the day for a fight, so he held back. The next day, a sign was put up in front of the gate of the princess residence. Xianxia and dogs are not allowed in the mansion.